Hey you guys, I finished uploading all of the 7 chakra systems. They're on my YouTube channel right now. Feel free to check it out. Corey Anderson, remember the name. Right now, we could finally continue in our mental chemistry journey. I'm listening to my alpha waves. Now remember, alpha waves put your brain in a state of homeostasis, where the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere are working in synchronicity. So let's begin. Chapter 13, Biochemistry. Biochemistry is a science whose concern is with vital processes, and which has availed itself from the cell theory and of the principle of the infinite divisibility of matter. It also makes use of the homeopathic dose. The dose must be proportionate to the patient, the cell, for, as Virchow has pointed out, the essence of disease is the cell, changed pathogenically. Dr. Schussler, the originator of biochemistry, arrived at his conclusions by studying the elements, nature, and functions of human blood. The cells receive their sustenance, their life supply, from the blood and lymph, which in turn derive their supply from the elements taken in as food. Normalcy in the supply of these elements means health. Any deviation and disturbance of health. So basically what that paragraph is saying, like we were reading from my NASM book, if you haven't seen my videos on the chakra systems, go ahead and check it out. I talk about the chakras, each one of their functions, their locations, their endocrine gland connection. And the endocrine gland is the endocrine system is what secretes the glands into the bloodstream, and those glands in turn make the chemical reactions in the body. And what he's saying here, he says when he says the cell receives their sustenance, their life supply from the blood and lymph, that is because all carbs, all fats, all proteins, oxygen, iron, anything and everything that you could think of travels through the bloodstream. That is how all the cells in your body and all the tissues get the proper nutrients and the supply it needs for proper growth and function. So, let's move on. Dr. Schussler placed the number of mineral combinations in the human body at 12. Now remember, minerals come from rocks. In the last edition, 1895, he reduced the number to 11. These all necessary cell salts are potassium chloride, potassium phosphate, potassium sulfate, sodium chloride. These are all salts. Sodium phosphate, sodium sulfate, phosphate of lime, fluoride of lime, phosphate of magnesia, phosphate of iron, and silica. Milk contains all these elements. Other foods can give them in combination. Cremation reduces the body to these elements. Wow. So, when the body gets cremated, it gets reduced to all these cell salts. And milk also contains all of these elements. Each kind of cell depends upon a different salt, or combination of salts, for its food. A lack of any of these salts is shown by certain symptoms. The proper tissue salts, in right proportions, are given to remove the symptoms, since removal of the symptoms implies a removal of the need or disease in the cell. It must be remembered, however, that the cells are not fed, they feed themselves, and any attempt to compel them to accept more than they require causes disaster, which in turn brings in the gluttony. Eating too much is eating too much is bad for you. Not eating enough is also bad for you. And eating the wrong things isn't good for you either. They voluntarily accept what is necessary, and they reject what they do not need. The difference in the cells consists in the kind and quality of the inorganic tissue salts of which they are composed. Health, therefore, requires the requisite quantity of cell salts, and the lack of some one of these organic tissue salts results in imperfect cell action and diseased tissue. So improper amounts of salts within the body results in imperfect cell action and diseased tissue. The controlling principle which underlies every manifestation of form may be epitomized as follows. In the apportionment and grouping of the elements that constitute a thing lies the cause, not only of the form, but also of its functions and qualities. So basically saying, which underlies every manifestation of form, may be epitomized as follows. In the apportionment and grouping of the elements that constitute a thing lies in the cause, not only of the form, but also of its functions and qualities. I'm going to be pondering over that for a while. The apportionment and grouping of the elements. So, bringing certain elements together that constitute a thing lies the cause. So, when these certain elements come together, it is because of a certain cause and not from a form, but also of its functions and qualities. Dr. Charles W. Littlefield, M.D., the author of The Beginning and the Way of Life, gives some very beautiful illustrations of the application of this law in the chapter on the elements and compounds of nature, in which he says, quote, "Within the scope and application of this principle and grouping of electrons, as a law of origin of elements, molecules, tissues, organs, and forms, will be found in practical solution to every problem in biology, from the origin and differentiation of species to every modification of form and configuration of outline that mark individuals with characteristic personalities, both physical and mental. It is well known in chemistry that the molecule is the smallest part of any substance that can exist separately and still retain its properties." So, how can I put that into simple terms for you guys? Within the scope and application of this principle of grouping of electrons, as a law of origin of elements, molecules, tissues, organs, and forms. So, the origins of elements, molecules, tissues, organs, and forms are all found in the application of the principle of the grouping of electrons. It is the electrons which are behind the atoms, which give the atoms their special properties. Will be found in the practical solution to every problem in biology, from the origin and differentiation of species to every modification of form and configuration of outline that mark individual with characteristic personalities, both physical and mental. It is well known in chemistry that the molecule is the smallest part of any substance that can exist separately and still retain its properties. So only when it is in the state of a molecule, that is when it is considered separate than an element. That is very interesting, and still retain its properties. Since the nature of a molecule is determined by the polarities, which are its opposites, the north and the south pole, number and arrangement of the electrons which compose it, and since all structures in the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms are molecular, it follows that in the last analysis and grouping, the groupings and apportionment of negative and positive electrons in the molecule determine in turn the nature and physical conditions of the form, whether it be perfect or imperfect. So, it is saying that the nature of a molecule is determined by its polarities. There is the north and the south. Your body itself is producing, every organ in your body, every cell has its own magnetic field. It has its north side and its south side. It is shooting out from the north and it is coming back into the south. That is your magnetic field, and that is how it works. Now what it is saying here is that the number and arrangements of the electrons which compose that molecule, and since all the structures in the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdoms are molecular, and since everything is made out of these molecules that are part of the mineral, vegetable, and animal kingdom, it follows that in the last analysis, the grouping and apportionment of negative and positive electrons in the molecule determine in turn the nature and physical conditions of the form. So basically saying it's your magnetic field, your electromagnetic field is basically what determines the molecular properties of all three, mineral, animal, and the vegetable kingdom. And that makes a lot of sense, because if each cell is their own individual entity, they're being held together by something. The whole structure of our being has its shape because of our own complex energy systems. Everything is made out of energy, and it is your electromagnetic field that has caused your body to become this complex structure as it is, these molecules. Deformity, personal likes and dislikes, are only questions of being electronically balanced or unbalanced through supply or lack of supply of the forms of molecules that compose the organisms. So when these molecules are unbalanced, they produce deformities, and you get feelings that you either don't like or dislike, or that you either like or don't like. It becomes a feeling. It's only the spirit, mind, image of man, however, can make this grouping of molecules for the perfecting of a human form. Oh wow. See, you just said it right there. Only the spirit, mind, image of man, however, can make this grouping of molecules for the perfecting of a human form. So the whole physical part of your being is only the results of it's following the certain energy currents of what you are, of who you are, and where you came from. To bring humanity to a state of primitive perfection, therefore, not only must the same material, prepared in the same manner, be supplied, but the environment of forces must be the same as those employed by the creative spirit in the beginning. They must be the same. You must be in tune with life. You must become in tune with the energy that is around you. Since then, we are able to trace every elemental form of matter back to some definite grouping of negative and positive electrons. That is, through varying numbers and arrangements of these. So basically what he's saying there is that every elemental form of matter is basically in existence because of the electron behind it. And that is very interesting, because at the beginning of the book, I don't know if you guys remember me reading it or going over it, but if you look up, I don't remember if it was chapter 1 or it may have been chapter 2, but he's saying that the electron consciousness comes from the electron, which is back behind the atoms, which is responsible for the functions of atoms and molecules. Varying arrangements of these, and since we find life manifesting through various forms as determined by different molecular groupings by law of composition, and since it is rational to place divine mind behind this physical process, we are justified in assuming that divine mind, images of living things, preceded their physical development. Therefore, in the ultimate science of being, idealism is more probable than materialism. But, while mind may thus exist alone, there in the realm of cause, here in the realm of phenomena, we always have a psycho-physical parallelism, a realism, where everything must be explained by mind and matter, but by neither alone. Okay, ultimate science of being, idealism is more probable than materialism. So idealism, ideals, your ideals, the internal world, the world within, is more real and more probable than the external world, but they all have their own physical properties. Since it is this world within that creates the world without, the world without must in turn be the effect of the cause coming from the world within. The psychophysical parallelism, they're parallel, they run parallel with each other, they work together, but neither by oneself, neither alone. While the spiritual entity which constitutes the real self may well be assumed to be akin to the Supreme Mind, being a particular mind image thereof in the line of descent, having power of choice and therefore of independent action, it is unquestionably limited by bodily conditions. So basically it's saying that while the spiritual energy which constitutes the real self may be assumed to be akin to the Supreme Mind, so the spiritual entity that you are, the spirit that you are, is an exact constitute of the Supreme. You were created in the image and likeness of God the Father, the spirit, energy. Everything is energy. God is cosmic intelligence, and everything has proceeded from this cosmic energy. Being a particular mind image thereof in the line of descent, having power of choice and therefore of independent action. So basically saying you get to choose who you want to be. You have a choice. You have the choice. It is unquestionably limited by bodily conditions. In The Chemistry of Life, Dr. George W. Carey says, quote, "So-called disease is neither in person, place, nor thing," end quote. The symptoms of sensations, called diseases, are the results of lacking material, a deficiency in the dynamic molecules that carry on an orderly procedure of life. The effect of the deficiency causes unpleasant sensations, pains, exudations, swellings, or overheated tissues caused by increased motion of blood. So basically saying disease is only the result of unbalances within the body. The increased motion is the effort nature or chemical law. Makes to restore equilibrium with the diminished molecule blood builders. By the law of conservation of energy, the increased motion is changed to heat. We call this effect fever. Wow. The increased motion is the effort nature or chemical law. Makes to restore equilibrium with the diminished molecules of blood builders. So when your body is trying to restore its molecules back to homeostasis, to normal levels. By the law of conservation of energy, the increased motion is changed to heat. Conservation of energy. We call this effect fever. Biochemistry means the chemistry of life, or the union of inorganic or organic substances, whereby new compounds are formed. Now remember the difference between an inorganic and an organic substance. A rock is an inorganic substance. It is a fixed thing. It's dead material. And human beings and plants are organic substances. We are forever changing, forever recreating, and forever being created and recreating ourselves. In its relation to so-called disease, this system uses the inorganic salts, known as cell salts, or tissue builders. The constituent part of man's body are perfect principles, namely oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, lime, iron, potash, soda, silica, magnesia, etc. These elements, gases, etc., are perfect per se, but may be endlessly diversified in combination as may the planks, bricks, or stones in which a building is to be erected. So, that's basically saying that every single thing is made out of the same substances. It is only the different combinations of these substances which give certain things their special properties. Symptoms called disease disappear or cease to manifest when the food called for is furnished. The human body is a receptacle for a storage battery and will always run right while the chemicals are present in proper quantity and combination. Will always run right when you are feeding yourself the right things you're feeding yourself. When you are in tune with your body, when you don't have negative thoughts, when everything about you is in tune, your mind, body, and your spirit, only then can you run in perfect harmony. and I really hope you guys watch my chakra videos, because we go over the chakra systems and the energy centers of your body. These energy centers are your centers of creation, and if any one of those are blocked or thrown off in any way, it disrupts your energy vibrations, and that could cause more disease and more illnesses and things like that within your body. Okay, it will always run right while the chemicals are present in proper quality, quantity, and combination, as surely as an automobile will run when charged and supplied with the necessary ingredients to vibrate or cause motion. The cell salts are found in all our food, and are thus carried into the blood, where they carry on the process of life, and by the law of chemical affinity, keep the human form, bodily functions materialized. Cell salts are found in all of our food. You don't need to put salt in your food. You don't need to add salt to any of your food. What salt does to the body, it makes your body hold on to water more. So when you exercise and you have excess amounts of salts, you are going to retain a lot of water weight, and it's going to be a lot harder for you to sweat and perspirate, and for you to release any of the proper, or release any things your body doesn't need anymore, I should say. When a deficiency occurs in any of these workers through a non-assimilation of food, poor action of liver or digestive process, dematerialization of the body commences. So disease is a deficiency in some of the chemical constituents that carry on the chemistry of life. Remember how he was saying that your body is nothing but chemical reactions, and if you have chemical imbalances within your body, you're inevitably going to have a disease. You're inevitably going to have an imbalance. Biochemists have shown that food does not form blood, but simply furnishes the mineral base by setting free the inorganic or cell salts contained in all foodstuff. The organic part, oil, fibrin, albumin, etc., contained in food is burned or digested in the stomach and intestinal tract to furnish motive power to operate the human machine and draw air into lungs, thence into arteries, in other words, air carriers. Now, I kind of want to go over something with you guys. It's a digestive process. When you start the digestive process, your food goes down through your what is it called? The throat. There's a specific name for it. I have my NASM book. In my future videos, I will be going over the structure of the body, the functions of the body, and its own specific systems. But in the digestive system, when you eat your food, it goes down into the stomach, and that is where it breaks down. All your stomach acid breaks the food down, and then it enters into the small intestine, and it's through the small intestines where all the nutrients within that food get absorbed into the bloodstream, and that is when it gets picked up in the bloodstream and it travels through your body. And then whatever's left of the food whatever's left of the food that was absorbed in turn travels through the large intestines, which holds your wastes. So, the bloodstream carries everything in it. It's the blood plasma. It's the supply, if you will, for the whole body. The carriers. Therefore, it is clearly proven that air, spirit, united with the minerals and forms blood, proving that the oil, albumin, etc. found in blood is created in every breath. Wow. Oh, that's pretty cool. Let me read that to you again. Therefore, it is clearly proven that air, spirit, united with the minerals and forms blood, proving that the oil, albumin, etc. found in blood is created every breath. It is through the bloodstream which all the cells and tissues in your body can stay alive and survive. Increase the rate of activity of the brain cells by supplying more of the dynamic molecules of the blood known as mineral or cell salts of lime, potash, sodium, iron, magnesia, silica, and we see mentally truths that we cannot sense at lower or natural rates of motion, although the lower rate may manifest ordinary health. Natural man, or natural things, must be raised from the level of nature or supernatural in order to realize new concepts that lie waiting for recognition. You must rise. And that is what we are doing. We are rising, me and you, together, because, in all honesty, we are the future. Everyone tells you that. The kids are the future. We are the future. We are the ones that are creating the new world today. And this information is very important for you guys to know and to understand, because if you don't know this and you don't understand this and you don't know who you are, if you don't know where you are, and you don't know where you came from, then how are you going to be able to take charge of the life that God intended you to live? And that is what I'm here for. I'm hoping to be able to shine the light on you guys. And let's see. Shine the light on you guys. Let me tell you something. It's 2:36 in the morning. I've been up since 7. I've started this at 8:30. So was that 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, like 17 hours I've been recording these videos and uploading these videos and reading this to you. So I really want you guys to see how important this stuff is, and I know the only way I could show you is if you could see the change in me from going over this information, because you can't change people. You can only inspire them to do better for themselves, and that is exactly what my mission here is. By the regenerative process, millions of dormant cells of the brain are resurrected and set in operation, and then man no longer sees through a glass darkly, but with the eye of spiritual understanding. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow that the night, the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. 'Tis shown in life's puzzles and sorrowings, 'tis taught by remorse with its secret stings, that he who grief to another brings, one day in his turn must weep. From the past doth the present eternally springs. You may sow what you will, but tomorrow will bring you the harvest. To show you the manner of thing is the seed you have chose to sow. And that will be the end of chapter 13. Is the seed you have chose to sow. Tomorrow will bring you the harvest. Your mind is a garden, and I hope that I'm being able to plant seeds of justice and truth for you guys. Because I know eventually something's going to happen. Somebody's going to hear this, and something will happen to you which will make you realize more of how this is true. Because, like I said, this is something that was never really taught to anyone. I still have never met anyone personally who's heard of Charles F. Haanel. I've never heard anyone met anyone who's heard of Wallace D. Wattles, which is another one of my favorite writers, which I'm going to in turn go over with you guys in later videos, because his stuff is great as well. And Neville Goddard, I've never heard anyone talk about Neville Goddard, the power of awareness. And yeah, with that being said, you guys, I love y'all, and I'll see you in the next video.